So, good morning, everyone. To start with, is this sign familiar to you? You've probably seen it on plastic bottles, grocery bags, takeout trays, cosmetics containers, pretty much everywhere these days. Since we've been told that recycling is a path to a more sustainable world, the world has begun to produce recyclable goods. And that's why we see these recycling symbols on a lot of the products we consume these days. But is recycling fully sustainable? Not really. The truth is, our current recycling system, no matter how advanced a country is, has serious limitations in sustainability. Hi, I'm Clara, a senior at Concordia International School, Hanoi, and I'm here to change the way you think about recycling. So, recycling has long been our go-to solution for plastic pollution. But let's face the truth. It's far from circular. In other words, plastics are not continuously reusable once they undergo the recycling process. This happens because they are processed in one of the two main ways, which are mechanical recycling and chemical recycling, each with its own set of challenges. Mechanical recycling is simply a process of washing, sorting, and shredding plastic waste into smaller physical fragments, which can later be formed as new plastic products or raw materials. However, there's a major downside. With every recycling process, the quality of the plastic downgrades until it becomes unusable at all. And not only this, any additives or contaminants like your food leftovers, fillers, or pigments in the plastic can also hinder mechanical recycling. So this is where chemical recycling steps in. Chemical recycling breaks the chemical bond in plastic so it can become a smaller component known as monomers. Then the monomers are rebuilt into plastics just as strong and durable as the original one. And chemical recycling also handles a wider range of plastic, even if they're contaminated. Sounds promising, right? But the truth is, chemical recycling isn't sustainable either. Only a few types of plastic can be restored back to plastic, and the rest, they end up as a fuel that requires extra processing, which requires a large amount of energy. So, in the end, the byproduct of chemical recycling contributes to carbon dioxide emissions, making it seem a less sustainable solution than it seems. Without these conventional plastic recycling methods, we would have much more plastic waste filling up our planet. But unless we rethink and innovate our approaches, we won't be able to break the shackles of limited sustainability. So, I decided to seek the solution in the field that I'm passionate about, which is microbiology. Would you be surprised to know there exists bacteria that can eat and recycle plastic? So back in 2001, in the city of Sakai in Japan, a group of Japanese researchers first discovered plastic-eating bacteria at a random garbage dump. Among heaps of dirt and wastes, they found this film of bacteria that had been actively munching on plastic bottles. And the researchers figured out that as the bacteria degraded plastic, they were consuming the carbon within the plastic as its source of energy to support its growth and reproduction. So finally, in 2016, they officially named this bacterial species Ideonella sakaiensis after the city of Sakai, which it was first discovered. And since then, many other bacteria have been discovered with the ability to eat plastic and even convert plastic waste into a more valuable resource. And this is called bio-upcycling. So how does this work? Well, it's actually a lot like how we digest food, except instead of releasing poop, bacteria turns plastic waste into gold, metaphorically. So it all starts with enzymes, which are specialized proteins that speed up chemical reactions. First, bacteria use special enzyme called hydrolase to cleave the chemical bond in PET, breaking it down to smaller components of carbons. In that process, bacteria feed those broken down components so they can build life essential components like DNA or amino acids for their growth. And here comes the real magic. After that, through other types of enzymes, they convert those broken down components into a value-added product, like biodegradable plastics, which can replace conventional petroleum-based plastics. So do you see what I mean by resource circularity? As plastics are broken down into smaller fragments, they're upcycled to materials with higher quality and higher environmental value. And furthermore, by closing this loop of plastic waste management, bioupcycling reduced carbon dioxide emissions about 30 to 40% compared to landfillings or incinerations. And this is a massive step towards a greener planet. But before diving deeper into bioupcycling, let me first introduce you the type of plastic that I'll be focusing on in my speech, which is polyethylene terephthalates, or PET. So PET is the most commonly used type of plastic, in which it accounts for about 85% of the world's plastic production. So the Aquafina bottle that you drink from every day, the chair that you're sitting on right now, your car seat belt, and many other materials. All these materials are primarily composed of PET. And in chemical perspective, PET can be broken down into terephthalic acid, TPA, and ethylene glycol, EG, by PET hydrolases. So let's get back to bioupcycling. So bioupcycling is good and it's promising, but we have to admit that bioupcycling is still in its early stages. While the progress so far is impressive, the process remains too slow to make a meaningful impact on plastic waste at scale. Some scientists are even skeptical about its potential, pointing out that some plastics might not even be broken down by bacteria because it takes too much energy to break the chemical bond, and the process just takes too long. So, to overcome these challenges, scientists are turning to bioengineering to enhance bacteria's ability to degrade plastic and digest ethylene glycol. And this really brings us closer to a future where bioupcycling can actually become a more practical solution. So one of the earliest bioengineering approaches involved gene editing. For example, imagine you're trying to remodel your house. You start with little changes, like you swap out old chairs with a new one, or you repaint the walls, and you fix broken lights. And this is like traditional genetic engineering, where scientists tweak individual genes one at a time, deleting those that slow down ethylene glycol digestion, and turning on genetic switch that keeps the digestive pathway permanently active. And by doing this, bacteria can digest plastic much faster, and they can grow more efficiently. But what if we're thinking too small? Instead of just changing like furnitures or little parts, can't we just redesign the whole house? And that's where synthetic biology comes in. Instead of modifying one or two genes, synthetic biology redesigns the entire digestive pathway. This is like changing your plumbing system in your house, or changing your lighting system to fully automated sensors. So synthetic biology has much more effect, much more impact on plastic degradation. And I know some of these scientific parts might not sound too tangible. So here's one of the real-world applications of bio-upcycling. Carbios, a French enzymatic recycling company. This company recycles about 250 kilograms of PET waste per day just by relying on bacterial enzyme. So in this steel tanks, PET hydrolase fills up the steel tanks, breaking down PET waste into ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid, which can later be transformed into new plastic products or something with better quality. And moreover, in collaboration with major brands like Nestle or L'Oreal, Carbios is actually proving that bio-upcycling, industrial-scale bio-upcycling, is possible. Bacterial PET recycling is not just a theoretical solution, but it's a commercially viable and sustainable option. We are at a turning point in the way we change recycling methods. Bio-upcycling offers a circular alternative to traditional recycling. But turning this into industrial scale requires further investment, research, and public awareness. Because Carbios wasn't the only driving force behind its success. It was made possible by the French government's great support. As the French government realized biotechnology as a critical solution to plastic pollution, they integrated this enzymatic recycling into their national waste management system. And this policy-driven approach, backed by both private and public investment, really allowed Carbios to expand and thrive. So as a result, bio-upcycling is becoming a more competitive alternative to mechanical recycling or chemical recycling. And if we want to see a similar progress elsewhere, we have to make the similar level of commitment. So what can we do? We don't need to be a scientist to make an impact. Just understanding and having an interest in this field can make a difference. Stay informed, ask questions, and challenge outdated systems. And recognize that science isn't just about formulas in your textbook. It's about solving real-world problems. Right now, companies like Carbios is making cutting-edge enzymatic recycling to decrease plastic pollution. Your support of bio-upcycling, whether financially, through advocacy, or just spreading the awareness, can push the solution forward. And here's where you come in. Stay curious, stay engaged, because the future of our planet isn't in the hands of just a few scientists. It's on all of ours. Thank you.